consistent as he can be from day to day. And I just think, if and when he gets his chance to play, I don't expect him to struggle. But if he does, I think he's better equipped than most to handle it.
Bro, he is, just really, everything that you just said, humble. That's one of the things. So ground. A lot of guys, a lot of athletes, I get to, you and I both, we interview tons of guys, talk to all different ones. They're all, most of them anyway, the smart ones are masters of that kind of artificial humility that athletes will give you, where they're saying the things they know they've got to say because they sound good and you don't want to come across the wrong way. But there's a difference between the guys that mean that. The one paragraph, the one quote out of your article that I really was just like, man, that kind of sums him up, because you got, and the reason I say this is because he is everybody. If you look outside, if he was looking around, going, whether it was on Twitter, on websites and all of that, he could see how highly touted he is, and how the way people view him outside, and the way people look at him, and how they see him as a guaranteed no-brainer, making it to the big leagues guy. And then you hear him say, how will it be when you get to the big leagues? How blessed will you be? All of those things I leave for the off season. Right now, I've just got to focus on the game today and tomorrow, and winning the game and getting better and improving. So when I get that call, God willing, one day, as if he doesn't know that call is going to come, hopefully the Indians feel I'm ready and I feel I'm ready. And this is, and it's not that I'm saying it because the PR guy coached me to, or because it's what I have to say. It's truly that just speaks to him. Like you said, there's a reason that the Indians view him as untradeable, and it's not. It's all of these things, not just the one or the other. It's all of them that make him very special.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Special is really the word to describe him, and I think it's funny because obviously, as I interviewed him, I'm lucky enough I get a lot of access at the minor league level, and the door doesn't swing quite as wide open at the major league level. So in my mind as a writer, I've really been fortunate enough to cover him for the last 3 years through the minor leagues. And I know in my head, my time of getting to talk to him and watch him up close on a regular basis
it's whittling
is
away.
About to end. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the writer in me, as I interviewed him, part of me was thinking, this may or may not be the last time that I get a golden opportunity like this to interview him. And so, I certainly, angled it towards that heading to the major league angle. And I think the thing that, blew me away is he has been fortunate enough to interact with the big league roster over the last 2 years, and the Indians have included him. And I kind of talked to him about that, and I said, who do you gravitate to? Who do you like on that team that, you've picked up tips from? And the first name he gives is Michael Brantley. So, if you know nothing about the guy, just from the simple fact that he's 20 years old and he knows how to choose good friends, I think that says a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely the guy you want. You say, hey, you can give him all the advice you want, so, and you know what, we're talking about all of these things off the field. Let's talk about some of the on the field tools too, because everybody knew glove work. The guy is just, that you say that word, when I used it earlier, special. And that applies there as well. Every scout to a man, especially the early ones that saw him just in his early infancy and playing baseball, talked about how some guys playing shortstop. I saw a quote the other day, said some guys, you look at them and go, yeah, they can play baseball, but that's not a real shortstop. And from the very first second you lay eyes at him fielding the position, it looks like he was born to play shortstop. He's just that natural athlete playing in that hole.
Absolutely. And, you hit it on the head. He is a natural shortstop all the way. And defensively, he's as good as anyone. And there's a million reports from a million people, more qualified than me, that have all said that Francisco Lindor defensively is a major league product today. And I would completely agree with that. And I would go so far as to say he's probably been that way for at least a year, if not some more. He is very fundamentally sound. He works as hard as anyone for as solid a defender as he is. He's the guy that is one of the first on the field in the afternoon, and it doesn't matter the temperature, and he's out there, working and taking more ground balls and working on, as he talks about, being more and more consistent. But he's a guy who definitely has made his strength even stronger along the way. I think as you look at the Indians and you look ahead to 2015, he is certainly going to be a guy that is going to make this team better defensively the moment that he shows up. And I actually have told a number of people this. His defense is so good that I think some people misconstrue his offensive game, because I hear people talk about how strong he is defensively, and then they say, it's his bat that might not be major league ready.
Right.
I always preface that with, his bat's pretty good too. I hate when people get the idea that he's, an all glove type of guy, because he's not.
It's like Omar. It's like Omar, Mike. Like, they are so fixated on how good he was defensively, and his remember the early rap on him was that he was a light hitting, great defensive shortstop. But look at how many times he was around 300. Look at how well of a hitter he was. But people don't go, hey, Omar was a pretty consistent hitter. They just go, man, he was great defensively. Like, they kind of, because one was so strong, it makes the other one look more like a weakness, when instead it's just not as strong as the other side,
Yeah, and I think, you bring up Omar, and it's funny that you say that, because I was about to go the same way.
Oh, okay.
When Omar broke in with Seattle, he had a couple years of all glove and no stick,
yes,
and hitting, 220. I don't think you'll ever see a year like that out of Francisco Lindor. I don't think you'll ever. The worst year he's ever had in the minor leagues was his first year at Lake County. He hit 257. He hit 303 last year in the Carolina League, that's known historically to be a pitcher's league. The ball is heavy there, and it hangs up in the air, and it's not a hitter's league. He hit 300 last year. Again, at 20 years old, there's not a lot of 20-year-olds that play Double-A, and he's hit 280 for the season, and he's hit a consistent 280. It's in there in the story, but I don't think he's hit lower in a month than 271, and he hasn't hit higher than 292. So
yep,
he's very consistently offensively, and for a guy who's not tall, he has gotten much stronger as he's grown. And I think what people forget is, at only 20 years old, he's still growing up as a man. He's put 15 pounds of all muscle on in the last 2 years, and you see it in his bat. He has a lot more what I would consider to be gap power at this point. Last year he only hit 2 home runs. He's already hit 6 this year, and I don't think not when he originally comes up, not in his first couple years, but in the prime of his career, your best Francisco Lindor years, I don't think are going to be comparable to Omar Vizquel. I think they're going to be more comparable to a Michael Brantley at the plate, or in my mind, Roberto Alomar, if you don't count his power years. I don't think Francisco Lindor will ever hit 20 home runs. But if you look at Alomar's years, with the Padres and maybe the Blue Jays when he was younger, I think Francisco is a guy, by the time he's 25, 26 years old, can hit 300 in the big leagues and can hit you 10 to 12 home runs, and he's going to run like the wind, and he's going to score a ton of runs. He's a guy that can hit 300 and maybe steal you 40 bags and score, 100 runs if you've got guys behind him, of course, to drive him in.
So, and you know what? And this will probably bridge after the break into the, when we start talking about the Indians and where they sit now and looking at the second half of this season. But we're talking about all of this. And people that, some guys I've seen, some guys have gotten a chance to go out and see him play, and they agree, and some haven't. And all they do is hear guys like us talk about it. But seeing this and hearing all these things, and I brought up a situation back, 5-6 years ago, and you look back, what about, does he have, and just you and me talking, not is it going to happen, but do you think he has the potential? Say he ends up here, say the Tribe is not able to pull off a trade, everybody's holding their breath, hoping that they do something, get something to spark this team, much like we talk about Salazar as a pitcher. Do you think he could do like as Drupal did during the Indians' last decent playoff run in 2007? Could he be that spark and come in both offensively and defensively in lieu of a major trade? Or do you think, no, that's too much to think is possible?
I think he could be a spark, Gary. Now, whether he'll be given the opportunity or not, I think is a different conversation. But if you're asking me if he could be the spark, I definitely think that he could be that spark to this team. He's definitely a guy who can make things happen. He's definitely a guy who, always has 110% on the field. He would definitely make them better defensively. And I think he's a guy, if he was brought up today, I would assume that they would, plug him at the bottom of the order, and he would hit 8th or 9th. And I think he's a guy that could roll that lineup over. Like I said, I don't worry about Francisco Lindor's offensive ability at the major league level. I just assume that he would, at some point, if he was brought up now, he would hit at the bottom of the order. But I almost think that as a positive, because he would be a guy who could roll that order over. And, we've talked quite a bit about, keeping the line moving and how the offense has struggled to do that at times. I think he's a guy that would keep the line moving, and, whether that be, drop down a bunt and move a guy over, try to make something happen himself. But to answer your question, yeah, I think he has the ability to be a spark. Now, on the flip side, I have a feeling that you're not going to see him at least until September, but I think he could contribute today.
Because that's what I was going to ask you next, but you just kind of shut me down with that. Obviously, you don't think so. I was going to say, how close do you think the Indians are to feeling the same way? Do you think there's at least some people going, yeah, but what if? You know what I mean? And I'm sure, just like with pitchers, you bring up Jarrett Wright with position players. If you're looking at the last playoff run, you would say, hey, as Drupal, he came up down the stretch, and even though he played second base there, he helped kind of add. And so within the Indians, do you think there's kind of a split, or are they standing strong that they're not going to bring him up too soon?
I think it's definitely on the table, and I would say, along with probably 5 other plot lines, I would bet in their internal meetings it's probably discussed daily, and I think that is a big reason why he was promoted to AAA when he was. I'm one that has kind of always thought or believed that he may never go to AAA, just because of the makeup of AAA, the way that they have handled him. He has spent most of his time with a group of coaching staff that has really worked with him from day one, and now that has kind of all been broken up by his promotion to AAA. And to me, I think when you develop any player, but especially a top prospect, I think when you're developing someone at AA and lower, it's all about development, and those are all young players trying to get better and get to the big leagues. At AAA, I think you have 2 groups of players. You have guys that are a step away from becoming big leaguers, and then you have, what we normally refer to as 4A guys, but guys that have been big leaguers that are basically in holding patterns. waiting for an injury or for a hole to open and another opportunity. I mean, essentially,